We should be online. Okay, so welcome again to this new installation of the International Legume Society webinars. I'm very happy with today's webinar, but before starting with Dr. Boukid, we are going for a couple of announcements. First, a new issue of our journal, the Legume Perspective, which is the internal journal, but the public journal of the International Legume Society is online. You find it on our website. This time, the title is Echoes of Progress, Horizon of Promise, Bridging Our Legume Society Journey. So it's a bit of a retrospective of what we are doing. The second announcement is that our next conference in Dubrovnik next year is getting closer. So the conference will be in June 2026, June 8, 12, and abstract submission is open. So please go on. You find either on the website of the society or the website of the conference. You find all the information. And last thing is that next webinar, so in December, will be a special session that we are experimenting at this time, dedicated to young researchers. So we'll have 3 shorter interventions by 3 young researchers, PhD students, postdoctoral students, each one talking for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we'll stay within the usual timing, but we'll have 3 different speakers. That said, let me go back here to our conference for today, to our speaker for today, and let me introduce Dr. Fatma Boukid, which currently works at the Clombio Group in Ireland. And so I read from her bio that passionate food science, mixing traditional innovative project. Today, we are going to talk about pulses as a sustainable protein source. So, Dr. Boukid, please.
Thank you. I'll share my screen. Can you see it? It's full screen. Perfect. So thank you for the invitation and the introduction. The presentation will be focused on pulses as a source of sustainable proteins. So my presentation will start by the protein challenge in the actual word. Then I'll go through the pulses protein characteristics and functional property. Afterward, I'll discuss the processing for the extraction and the recovery of pulses protein and how we can enhance their functionality through further processing. Afterward, I'll go through the nutritional and the health value of the proteins. And based on market mapping, I'll go through the foods and the beverages that include pulse protein in their formulation. And I'll conclude by the environmental benefits of pulses. So globally, we do produce enough protein to feed the population, yet the access to quality protein remain highly unequal. In fact, 90% of countries consume more protein than required, while malnutrition continues to be a leading risk factor for disease in developing region. With growing demand and pressure on natural resources, ensuring a secure and sustainable protein supply is becoming increasingly challenging. So in this context, pulses and other plant-based proteins can play an important role as a part of a diversified and sustainable protein strategy. So why pulses? Pulses are rich in a lot of nutrients. They are packed with proteins, with fiber, with carb, with minerals, and a lot of other bioactive components, which are essential for a balanced diet. They support health and well-being, and they are very versatile. They can be in form of flour, they can be consumed as they are, they can be proteins or other formats, and then they can be used in different products, traditional or innovative, like pasta, snacks, bread, and so on. They are sustainable for a lot of reasons, including their ability to fix nitrogen. And finally, they are accessible and affordable sources that can offer a source of protein that can be within everyone reach. So pulses also contribute directly to several sustainable goals. They provide affordable nutrient-rich protein and micronutrient, which align with goal number 2, zero hunger. They also support heart health, glycemic control, and overall nutrition, which align with goal number 3. They also create an extra source of income for farmers and other opportunity, which align with goal number 8. Also, there are crops with low footprint, and they do promote sustainable food production, which align with goal number 12. Also, the ability of pulses to fix nitrogen and thus reduce their use to artificial fertilizer contribute to goal number 13. Also, they enhance soil fertility, biodiversity, and improve and contribute to the health of the land, which align with goal number 15. Now I'll start the first section, which is focused on the pulses protein characteristic and functional property. So pulses are an excellent source of proteins, and they are plant-based, and they do contain an amount that can vary from 20 to 14, depending on the protein species and variety. So the proteins in pulses are mainly composed from albumin and globulin. Albumin are the water soluble, and they are around 20 to 10 to 20%. They are water soluble. The major fraction is globulin, and it's represent from 70 to 18%, and it is subdivided in viscellin, conviscellin, and legumine. And also there is a minor amount of prolamine, would do contribute to the storage and seed development, but unlike cereals, pulses do not contain glutenine. So together, this fraction define both the nutritional quality and the functional property of pulses proteins. Like all protein pulses, also protein have multiple structural level. They have the primary structure, which is the linear sequence of amino acids determining the basic composition of protein. Then we have the secondary structure, which consists of alpha helix and beta sheets that help to, among their functionality, to help to stabilize the hydrogen bonds. We have also the tertiary structure. It is the 3D folding of the protein maintained by a disulfide bond, the hydrophobic interaction, and the ionic bonds. In some globulin, like a legumine, multiple submit assemble into a quaternary structure, forming hexamers. So, understanding the structure help predicting how pulse can behave during processing or during digestibility as well. Pulse protein exhibit a range of functional properties that are important both for food application and from a health-wise perspective. So we have solubility, which change based on pH, the ionic strength, and processing. And mainly we have albumin and some globulin are water soluble. Pulse protein also can stabilize oil in water emulsion, which is useful for sauces, dressing, and bakery product. Also, some proteins create stable foam, which are relevant in confectionery and aerated food. An example here would be aquafaba and its ability to form a plant-based meringue, for instance. Globulin, essentially viscellin and legumine, can form a gel when heated, important for plant-based meat and dairy analog. like yogurt, for instance. And we also see that pulses protein have good water and oil holding capacity that can play a role in texture, in the juiciness, and the yield of processed food. So, if we see it like from a bigger picture, so relating the structure to the functionality, so understanding this relationship, structure, functionality, it's a key factor into predicting how pulses protein could behave in a food. So the fractional composition determine, for instance, solubility and interaction. Like in the case of albumin, they are water soluble and compact, so they do contribute in solubility and foaming. While globulin, like visolin and legumin, form oligomers that contribute to gelation, emulsification, and water oil holding. The secondary and tertiary structure affect heat stability, digestibility, and texture. Even like the minor prolamine amount can influence the hydrophobic interaction, although their functional role in food is quite limiting. So through connecting the protein fraction to molecular structure and functional properties, we can predict and optimize how pulse protein would perform as a food ingredient. So the journey from pulses seed to functional protein ingredient involves several key steps. First, seeds are cleaned and sorted to remove the leftovers. They are then milled and dehulled to separate the hulls from the cotyledon. Next, protein are isolated or fractionated, depending either the process is wet extraction or can be dry milled and then separated through the dry fractionation. Other emerging processing also are being used. Afterwards, the protein fraction obtained, they can go through post-treatment for functionality improvement or for sensory improvement like enzymes. Physical treatment can be extrusion or fermentation. And the final product can be concentrate, isolate, hydrolysate, or also textured proteins. So for the pre-processing, they are mainly their objective is to optimize protein yield and functionality and also digestibility. So main processing are cleaning and sorting, dehulling, milling, and thermal conditioning in order to favor the separation of the protein and maximize the yield and avoid a further denaturation or the formation of aggregates of the protein when applying thermal treatment. So wet processing is the main process used for the recovery of protein isolates, and it is based on controlled pH and temperature step. So pulses are first soaked to soften the seed and to reduce the anti-nutrient. They are then milled into a slurry. Protein are stabilized under alkaline pH, which is between 8 to 10. And then using centrifuges or using filtration, we can recover the protein fraction and separate it from the starch or the fibers also present in the pulse seed. Then the protein are precipitated at their isoelectric pH, which is around 4.5 to 5.5 and finally dry it to finally obtain a protein isolate with a protein amount that range from 80 to 90%. Dry fractionation is another important process as well. It is a physical separation based on size reduction and size separation. So there is the main step of milling and grinding to a certain particle size depending on the pulse seed. And then it go through a separation based on density or based on the size or based on the charge. Usually the smaller particle size it's the protein richer fraction. This method is environmentally friendly because it do not include the use of water or chemicals, and it do produce a protein concentrates of 50 to 60% of proteins. It's quite lower than the wet extraction. Several advanced extraction technologies are being applied to protein to extract the protein from pulses to improve the yield or to maintain functionality and being like milder compared to the other processing, especially the wet extraction. So it can be enzyme-assisted extraction. So through the use of enzyme that can hydrolyze the cell walls, the fibers, or and can hydrolyze the protein. So it increases the yield of proteins, and it is less, it's milder and less harsh process, not like applying pH shift. Ultrasound assisted extraction also relies on the cavitation in order to disrupt the cell walls and release the proteins and recover as much as possible without applying the pH. Uh, Also, membrane filtration, such as ultrafiltration or diafiltration, they separate protein based on size, and it allows to obtain protein with quite homogeneous particle size. However, it can present some process issues like fouling or flux limitation. High pressure or supercritical fluid extraction can also enable the recovery of pulse protein. They are eco-friendly. However, they do need a high capital invest. So overall, these technologies are increasingly important for producing high quality functional pulses ingredient, even though their use is still quite limited compared to wet extraction or the dry fractionation. Pulse protein can be further functionalized. So after we obtain our isolate or concentrate, we can further apply a post-treatment to tailor specific functionality or features to fit certain application. Usually it's focused on improving the texture, the stability, and the flavor. Among them, we have biological processing, we have the enzyme treatment and the fermentation. So the enzymes are mainly proteases that are applied to break the protein in order to obtain smaller peptides which are more soluble, and also they can have foaming capacity. Also, we can apply fermentation, especially using yeast or lactic bacteria, in order to improve the flavor. Like there is a lot of studies focused on this in order to improve the volatile profile of the proteins. Also, we have physical treatment like ultrasound or extrusion or high or pressure in order to unfold the protein, exposing the hydrophobic and the hydrophilic region, which improve their functionality, such as emulsification, gelation, and other functionality. Also, chemical modification can be applied to increase thermal stability and can also modify the emulsification, the gelling property. Overall, all this process are typically applied to the major pulse protein. As I said before, it's the not on the flour, but more onto the protein purified forms to create functional ingredient for a wider range of food application. For the nutritional part, this slide shows the essential amino acid composition of the main pulses expressed in gram per 100 gram. I highlighted few rows. So for instance, we have lysine is the abundant amino acid in most legumes. Pulses, as you know, they are quite limiting in methionine and cysteine, which are the sulfur-rich amino acid. Arginine are high in lupine, chickpea, and cowpea. And we have, for instance, copy. It is rich in branched amino acids, which are the leucine, the isoleucine, and the valine. For the non-essential amino acids, glutamine and aspartic acids dominate. They are quite high, and usually they are associated with the umami flavor. Also, the lipins show the highest total amino acid level. Proline, glycine, and serine are moderate across all the species. So out of this comparison or this overview of the profile of amino acid of legumes, we can say that legumes are quite rich in lysine, but they are limited in sulfur-rich amino acids, whereas cereal are quite high in this sulfur amino acid, but quite limited in lysine. So combining legumes with cereal can create a complementary protein profile, which helps to improve the balance of essential amino acid when formulating, for instance, plant-based formulation. Another important factor beyond the the quantitative protein feature. We have digestibility, which is more toward qualitative evaluation, which determined how efficiently the body can break down and absorb the amino acid from the pulse protein. So protein digestibility do depend on factors related to the pulse itself and other factors which are external. So the factors related to the composition and the structure are the presence of anti-nutrient factor naturally present in most pulses. Also, we have the native structure of pulses, which is globular, or it can be further agglomerated and further or denaturated through the processing, like where there is heat treatment or extrusion. Also, when we are using the pulse protein within a food, it do interact with fiber, starch, and polyphenol, and will make a more complex structure that will be less accessible to the digestive enzymes, which will limit later on their digestibility, the protein digestibility. Here I reported an overview of the digestibility value. So all common pulse protein are highly digestible and the values are quite high and they do range from 88 to 96, not far away from the animal proteins. So for the same, the digestibility scores, the pedicals or the DIAs are also high, and they do vary between 0.78 and 0.93. They do not reach the 100% because they are limiting in sulfur amino acid, as I said before, but they do provide a good quality of plant proteins. Uh, I'll go a little bit deeper in the protein digestibility because assessing pulses digestibility is very important. So beside the biological variability and the process method that I said before that they do impact protein digestibility, there is other analytical factor that they do impact it, and they can make the comparison among studies quite complicated. So the protein digestibility can be determined in vivo, which is more accurate but costly and take time, and can vary from a person to person depending on the organism, of course. And then we have the in vitro. There is a lot of method, but there is the InfoGest 2 now, which is a standard method. It is faster, but it do depend on enzyme system, pH, and digestion time. And there is the ex vivo, which is a sort of intermediate way. So also after the digestibility, the protein digestibility can be evaluated in different methods. It can be measured through the evaluation of the free amino acids, or we can also measure the nitrogen amount in the digester. So this differences in protocols and in methods can result in inconsistent finding, and further would impact, the PDCAS and the DCAS value, and will make the comparison quite complicated among studies or among the same species. An important factor that it do impact the digestibility is the presence of antinutrient, and that can be several, like phytic acid, the enzyme inhibitor, the lectins. And there is, when we go through the extraction process, especially the liquid one, the wet extraction, so there is soaking, so where we can sort of reduce this antinutrient because some of them are thermostable, others are thermolable, so they can be sort of reduced through their dissolution within the water, or they can be denaturated by the heat treatment. This is one mitigation strategy. The other one, with the modern breeding program, they focus it already on developing low phytate, low tannin varieties. There is, for instance, now low tannin variety of faba protein. So the problem, it can be already solved through targeted breeding programs as well. So allergenicity and pulses protein. So some pulses protein, especially the viscellin and legumin, can trigger allergenic reaction due to the presence of certain epitopes, which is a specific sequence of peptides, which can also trigger a cross-reactivity in soy and peanut due to the resemblance of the sequence among the species of pulses and soy or peanut. However, pulses allergy remain relatively quite uncommon. So for the mitigation strategy, it can be through breeding by the selection of low allergen genotypes and through the modification of the protein profile, also through processing, but with the process it cannot fully be removed. So labeling is quite important in this case because we need to declare the allergen and transparency about the use of novel protein or novel processes. Of course, they should go through in Europe. They should go through EFSA or the FDA in the US in order to use a novel protein extracted differently. Even though the presentation focuses on pulses protein, but depending on the degree of extraction, beside pulse protein, we can have fiber content. So the fiber content can vary based on the extraction method. So isolate present minimal amount of fiber. However, concentrates can have up to 10% of fibers, and less refined powders can have even 15% of fiber. So beside having all the benefits of pulse protein, with this amount of fiber, we can have extra benefits, especially gut health and digestive health, glycemic response, and and weight management. Also, it will contribute to the dietary fiber intake. This fiber also will impact the functionality of the proteins within the different foods. For instance, if this fiber are viscous, they will increase the viscosity and the consistency when used in liquid application. It can impact the texture and the mouthfeel if they are less soluble, more aggregated. Also, insoluble fiber may reduce the clarity if used at high melt into beverages, for instance. Another important thing that we should keep an eye on is the amount of heavy metals in pulse protein. So the source of the heavy metal, it's from the soil. So pulses can absorb heavy metal from the soil if it do included, and it may be further concentrated through the process. So overall, commercial pulse protein powder are generally safe, but the risk might occur when consuming high dose of consumption or contaminated sources. However, through testing and using low metal soil and monitor and optimize the processing, we can avoid this problem. Lately, there is a lot of drama about this on social media. A lot of articles based on an article that they took, I think, 23 protein powders from the market that they do contain different protein, including pulses flour, pulses protein like pea, and faba and chickpea. And in this study, they said that the plant-based powders do contain heavy metal. However, two studies, that they did the same scientific study, that they do the same, one in Hungary and I think the other one was in the US. And both studies showed that the powders, commercially available are quite safe and the amounts of heavy metal, did not exceed the regulation. So overall, pulse protein provide a multiple health benefits. They are rich in branched chain amino acids, supporting muscle growth and improve cardiometabolic health by lowering cholesterol, enhancing vascular function, and moderating blood sugar. Their high protein can promote satiety, helping weight management. They are also hypoallergenic and highly digestible, and they do contain bioactive component, bioactive peptides that they might provide additional antioxidant and immune benefits. Pulses protein are versatile for many populations. They do provide high quality plant-based protein for vegan and vegetarian. They also rich in branched amino acids fitting athletes. They are naturally free from common allergens, so making them suitable for allergy sensitive consumer. Being gluten free, they fit in people following a gluten free diet. Also, their composition can fit within infant and early nutrition or seniors and elderly, especially pulse protein support muscle maintenance and offer soft, high fiber, low fat options as well. So for the application and the use of pulses protein in food system, I did a market analysis where it is based on Innova Market Insight. Not sure if you are familiar with, so Innova Market Insight, it's a database online that it do map all the product that they are launched in the market, food products that are available on supermarkets or on online shops. And I mapped the product, I use it as keywords, pulses ingredient overall, and I used the dates from 2000 to 2024. And as you see, the number of food products that they did contain pulses ingredient within their list of ingredients is huge, and it is growing, exponentially during the last years. Here I try to show the result differently and focus it on the region where this product are produced and sold. And as you see, West Europe, it's the first one. Then we have Asia, North America, East Europe, Latin America, Australia, Middle East, and Africa. Top country that they sell and produce food products containing pulses are United States, followed by United Kingdom, China, India, and Germany. So, with focus on the last 5 years, here I mapped the sources of the pulses used in this product. So, here I took it from the ingredient list, the main sources mentioned it. So, we have pea, it is mentioned on 17.86 of the product. Then we have the pea protein mentioned on around 14% of the product, beans, chickpeas, chickpea flour, and so on. When I focus it on ingredient categories, top one is beans, then peas, and then we have the pulse protein, and they are around 20%. So they are mentioned on 20% of the product, of the food product launched in the last 5 years. So the pulse protein are used in a lot of food product. And here I mapped the application. So as you see, number one, it's ready meals and side dishes. And here we means pasta, noodles. These are what we call ready meals, or different soups and stew and porridges. Then we have the pet food, the snacks. The fruits and vegetable, we mean here, they fit with the cans of the different pulses. Then we have bakery, meat substitute, baby and toddlers, and sport nutrition. So as you see, pulses protein are used in almost all the product, but I only mentioned the most important food categories where pulses protein are being used. So using pulse protein within food application might have some sensory and formulation challenges. I summarize them in 4 challenges. So we have the color and the flavor, the solubility and the dispersibility, texture and processing sensitivity, and then the functional variability. So now I'll go through each one of these challenges in a separate slide. So we have color and flavor. So different pulses present naturally different pigments, so they are colored. So like we have the red lentil or the green peas, for instance, so which are due to natural pigment within the pulses, which might impact visual appeal if they are used in neutral matrices. Like for instance, we cannot use them within a plant-based milk because we want it to be white. So we cannot use this colored legumes as they are, or colored protein as they are. Also, we have the off flavors. It's another challenge. It can be naturally present in the pulses, like the beanie, the earthy notes, all also process induced due to lipid oxidation, Maillard reaction, for instance, during high temperature of drying or extrusion. Also, enzyme activity can create off flavor through cutting, the different peptides. It can liberate bitter peptide, for instance. So there is a lot of mitigation strategy. For instance, applying bleaching in order to remove the color, enzyme treatment in order to favor a sort of selective where to cut and avoid cutting where there is the bitter peptide. There is also fermentation in order to mask or create new flavors. And when used into fat application, we can use masking agent or flavoring ingredient. For the solubility and dispersibility, so naturally pulse protein are globular, which means they have limited solubility. And further, during the process, they can further aggregate and assemble and or denaturate, which will limit their solubility in aqueous system, and this will limit their application within beverages or plant-based alternatives or any other liquid application. Among the strategies is applying enzyme hydrolysis to further hydrolyze the protein and liberate peptides, and also optimize the pH, the temperature, and increase the shearing during processing to favor a better dispersibility. For the texture and processing sensitivity, there is the problem of denaturation that can be due to the heat treatment. This will further direct the application of this pulses protein toward non-liquid application and will be used in meat analogs because it can fit there. We don't need the solubility. We need like a filling, for instance, or the source of protein. So the solubility is not anymore a requirement, and you need some pulse protein that they can absorb water or bind oil. Also, protein could interact with starch, fiber, lipids within the different formulation, and this will affect their gelation, emulsification, and mouthfeel. So a current strategies is when we process this protein, we need to be careful with the thermal treatment in order to avoid or manage the denaturation, or further apply a positive treatment if we need it to be liquid. Otherwise, when use it in meat alternative, need to be carefully formulated by hydrocolloids or fiber in order to tailor certain features that we need within that application. For the functional variability, I mean here that there is a lot of commercial pulse protein and they have different protein content, amino acid profile, and functional properties. Let's take the example of pea protein isolates. There is a lot of them. There is a lot of producer that they do sell pulse pea protein isolates. They don't have the same color. They don't have the same flavor. They are not all soluble. They are ones very functional. So the functional performance would differ depending on the pulses you are using. So ingredients for a food producer using, for instance, pea protein within their application, they need to standardize because having different suppliers and unstable supply will lead to certain variability within the functionality of your raw material. So you need to standardize, you need to blend it with other pulses for target functionality, for instance, or another strategy will be formulation specific optimization for solubility or gelation and emulsification, depending on the product you are aiming to develop. Moving to the last section, focused on the environmental impact. So as you see here, the pulses emit less than 1 kilo of CO2, which is quite low compared to all the animal-based sources. Also, water footprint of pulses, it's 5 to 10 times lower than that of animal-derived proteins. Also, pulses occupy 10 times less land than cereals. The ability of nitrogen fixation and soil health is also quite important to maintain and improve the soil structure and fertility. And also, pulses are quite relevant in crop rotation system because they help into breaking pest and disease cycle. They enhance nutrient cycling and yield stability of following crops. Also, diversify farmer income streams and reduce production risk. And they do support agro ecosystem resilience under different climate stress. So to conclude, Pulse protein offer excellent nutritional quality with essential amino acid and functional property suitable for diverse fruit application. They are environmentally sustainable, requiring less land, less water, and producing fewer emission compared to animal proteins or to other crops. Furthermore, innovative technologies from advanced extraction to functionalization enable pulses to meet the demand for modern food systems. So, for the future, pulse protein are entering a new era where AI is optimizing extraction, flavor, and texture. We have machine learning predicting functionality and consumer appeal. Agri-tech is boosting yield through precision farming, resilient cultivar, and blockchain traceability. And in food innovation, pulses protein power, next generation of meats and dairy alternative, also hybrid system where we can use plant pulses protein from 10 to 35% among other meat products in order to produce hybrids, which are suiting people wanting to reduce their meat consumption, call it also flexitarian. So together, these advances make pulses a smart, sustainable protein for the future. And thank you for your attention. Oops.
Thank you, Dr. Boukid. It was a very interesting presentation, very wide. It touched the whole food chain
Thank,
from the field to the final product.
thank you. I'll try to tell you the whole story.
Sure, sure. It was pretty clear and pretty well delivered. I have a number of questions from the chat, which I will
Sure.
go rapid fire. I will read to you, and then we maybe if there's somebody that want to ask you questions live. So let's start.
Mhm.
Um, First of all, very practical question. Could you distribute your presentation? Would you be okay with putting your presentation on our website?
Of course, sure. Yes, of
Okay,
course.
okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
we'll do
yeah.
that later
Sure.
today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll share it with you,
Is-
of course.
Sure. A yes or no question: is the concentration of heavy metals dependent or independent on organic versus conventional farming?
In theory, it should be, but in the studies, I checked about the heavy metal because, I added the slide of the heavy metal because I saw a lot of media talking about the heavy metal in powders, but I found only two studies that they sort of analyze it, market products, but they, on the product, they were not. In the article, they did not say if they are organic or conventional. I would expect it will be different, and organic will be less. But we don't know if there is accumulation on the past. I think it should be controlled already. But in the scientific paper that they analyzed powders, they did not discuss organic or conventional. They just gathered commercial products.
Okay, okay, yeah, that would be difficult
Yeah,
to understand, to investigate.
I think it can
Okay,
be something to investigate for sure. Yes, the heavy metal.
okay. Other question: what about in the cropping, intercropping? What are good combinations in your opinion? It's
Okay.
a bit of a tangent.
Um, I'm not a farmer, but when I was preparing, I check it. So it can be pulses cereals, it can be also potatoes, too works. There is corn as well. So pulses work with a lot of combinations. So it can be pulses, cereals, and potato, for instance. Or yes, there is a lot of
Okay,
combination.
yeah, sure. We touched on intercropping in other presentations too. Okay, then the other more specific question: what about lupin? It was a little bit on the background of the presentation,
Yeah,
so you talk a lot about pea. Um, can
yeah.
you share have some content on lupin? What's your opinion?
Yeah, we I think not my previous job, the job before, we worked on Lupin and we did decide to work on Lupin because it has the highest lysine content based on the table of FAO. So they have like amazing amount of lysine among all the species. And the protein content is quite nice too. There is a lot of species of lupin, with less problems. So I see a lot of potential for lupin, especially in Canada.
Very well known. Okay, then there is a couple of questions slash considerations. One is about the fact that consumption of legumes has decreased through Europe since the 50s. Now is the interest came back, and now the consumption is going up. But
I agree.
so
I
what's going
agree.
on? So this is more a historical background.
So I would
Uh,
say since 2015, with the FAO declaring like the year of pulses and all the promotion, a lot of European projects are focusing on pulses. Sort of Europe promoted pulses as a research topic, and as FAO promoted that, and sort of put the light on the health benefits. Did boost the re-inclusion of pulses in the diet as well. I think this what made the difference. I think if you notice there is a pick, or since 2015, I would say, 2016.
fully. Now, there's again a mixture of a question and a consideration is
Yes.
about we analyze when we do research, we analyze
Mm,
one crop at a time or one variety at a time, trying to optimize all the functional properties, nutritional values, etc. But at the end of the day, most of the time they are mixed.
I agree.
It's the industry.
I would say two
So
things. Yeah, I'd say two things. There is, what we do measure, in aqueous solution when we do measure the functional property, which is nice for, functionality comparison between, a set of proteins, for instance, or in order to compare a current protein with a past one. But once you put the protein within a food formulation, a lot of things can change, you can expect a major impact, or you can expect a less impact. I think through gathering a lot of data about functionality and how the product behave. For instance, in bakery we do the functionality and the RVA within the dough. So you can have both, and that will help you make a decision. And this is what we use to standardize, the mixes, for instance.
very good. There's another question, more or less on the same topic, is that if specific varieties are created through breeding, how are these reaching processing companies without being basically mixed up with everything else? So I guess that this is more a question about how to keep the value chain from the a specific bread variety with specific features up to the very end, if you think that's possible.
I would, it depends on the countries. I'm from Tunisia. I don't think we are that uh, clear about with the variety, but there is another example, is Canada, and I would give the example of Manitoba. So with, since
Mhm.
they have rocket there, the cultivation of pea is and faba is so organized, and there is a lot of traceability from farmer to rocket, and they do control everything, and they do intervene, and they have contract with the farmer, and they know, the fertilization, the water, the variety. So, it's something that the producer can, impact and manage.
Okay. Okay. Very last question, then we go. Then we go on the live chat. Very quick. When
Sure.
you were talking about membrane filtration,
Yes.
you listed as one of the side effect fouling.
Yes.
Uh, could you explain a little bit more about this term? Maybe not all our people is
I
familiar with
sure.
the term.
So fouling, it's like the agglomeration and the form of a deposit on the membrane. So sort of, it will stuck your membrane, and it will reduce your, the pores of the membrane will be locked. So this is like the formation of a deposit. This is fouling, yeah.
Okay.
Through,
Okay.
when it do pass, it will block it, sort of.
Mm. So there's still a lot of questions, but we go back to the live chat. So because I see that Paolo raised his hand, so maybe he wants to ask a question. Paolo Chiarico.
Yes, thank you, Fatma, for your comprehensive
Thank
presentation.
you.
And I would like to ask you about lupin allergens, because as you know well, allergens are a problem when labeling and marketing, and are also a problem when processing by separate chains. Now, first, do you think that the idea that that there is sufficient evidence that lupins have dangerous allergens? My second question, you mentioned that allergens are not so much known, but so do you think there is any practical opportunity to breed lupins for lower content of allergens?
Mhm.
And my third question, even if we did that, do you think it would be like, how to deal with the fact that even if we have a variety with a lower content of allergens, probably the regulation would still decide that that crop should be considered full of allergens?
I agree. So the first thing about the labeling, sort of, we need to say that it contains legumes or pulses on the label, because it can cause, beside, even if there is not that much of an evidence about all the legume species and all the epitopes, not like wheat, for instance, all clear or studied. So we need to declare it. And plus, there is the cross reactivity with soy and peanut, because there is a lot of, for example, I think most of the studies that I saw about the allergenicity of legumes, it's more about their cross reactivity with soy and peanut. And then in for breeding to reduce it, at the end of the day, they need to stick to the law. If it is, it should be lower than 20 ppm, or it should be lower than 100. Sorry, this is for gluten. We need to say there is no epitopes, basically, but I think at the end of the day, we need to say that it is from legumes origin. Even if we do, select varieties, the source need to be declared on the product. Because some of the product that I was screening in the markets, they do not sometimes specify the name of the legume, but they would say pulses ingredient, pulses protein. I think this is something to be sort of clarified between countries, because I extracted product from all over the globe, and they were not only European or US law or Canadian law or I don't know, North African law. So depending on the country, sometimes it is they should mention the species, and sometimes no. This is another problem as well too, and make things more complicated too.
Thank you, Dr. Boukid. If there's no more questions from live audience, I go back to the chat. There's a couple of questions
Sure.
more. You are very popular. And one thing starts, well, that is correct that PTNet is correct in the sense that historically legumes and legume grains were commonly consumed, at least in Europe,
Mhm.
and for historical reasons, the diet of at least for European changed through the second half of the 20th century. And that's nowadays legumes are mainly used as an ingredient for part of
Mhm.
something else, and it's less common to eat them by themselves. So a question for you is that what would be your advice? What do you think would be the best way to go back and recover this food culture that is sort of lost, has been lost during the last 70 years so, and should
Mhm.
something that should be done on local level, on national level, on European level? It would be very
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah. It's a very good question, and I think a lot of factors do contribute into answering this question for sure, because it's like scientific, but like there is the social, the political, the economical perspective as well. And I don't know, like earlier with the market analysis, top countries selling, producing pulses, I think it was United States and there was China. And there is Germany and France within the top 10. So sort of the interest is reflected, especially because I focused on the analysis of the 5 years of the market. So we see the shift already that, there is re-inclusion and a lot of consumption of pulses ingredients and within the food in fortified form or as they are as a whole or as a flour as well. But if he means about traditional food in its I think it's more sort of homemade stuff and it's sort of go from the know-how and from generation to generation, so it depends.
Yeah, I know it's a complicated topic. Now
Question,
there's
yes.
another more precise question
Uh-huh.
from the chat
Cool.
that
Boukid,
not
there
yet
is
very difficult.
Sorry.
here,
And
Boukid,
there's
do
also
you think
uh,
do you think that legume crops uptake matter more than other cereal crops? Do you think so?
I would say yes, yeah. Because due to their ability of nitrogen fixation, they have this ability to capture, I think, more. Because, one of the things that I work on barley, and I was looking for barley, it has less ability to uh, absorb heavy metal, yes, compared to legumes. So I agree with you. Legumes might be more uh, able to accumulate heavy metals compared to barley, for instance.
Okay, so among the legumes, which one absorb less metals? Do you have something, your observation?
I couldn't find anything about the topic. I don't think so. Because, the heavy metal topic, it's very recent, it's hyping now. And the two papers that are 25, the one I told you they analyzed the powders. I think there is not enough literature, especially, the comments earlier about comparing organic to conventional and how it impacts, the fixation of heavy metal. That would be a really nice study.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Fatma.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
then there is a $1 million question that
Oh yeah,
maybe the
I
last
saw it.
today. So, what type of pulse ingredient or application do you think will be grow the most in the next 5 years?
Wait, I would say what's happening now. So now we have, even though all the negative things about soy protein, soy is still on the top. So less rumor now about soy. There is always some rumors about soy protein doing something negative, but they are the top. There is wheat protein, and afterwards, much, much less, there is the pea protein. So maybe in the future there is more room for pea, in order maybe to take more market, maybe from soy. And I could say faba as well too, because there is a lot of investment in faba, especially, with low tannin faba, low phytate faba. So there is a lot of anti-nutrient be reduced already through the process, and the flavor is improving a lot already, sorry, from the breeding. So maybe faba as well.
Okay.
Application, I don't think so. Everyone is hyping alternative, but plant-based meat is 1% out of the whole meat market, so it's one. So I think it would be more toward bakery because bakery and snacks are huge compared to meat alternative, for instance. So I would say, massive application, more bakery and snacks. Just
Okay.
speculation.
Go on. Waiting for a lot of
Yeah, we'll see in 5 years.
yeah, sure. Okay, chat. Is there any other question, other burning question, either on chat or on here live? Doesn't appear to be so. So thank you again. It was a very interesting presentation. You see, you received a lot of questions.
I'm happy.
Everybody very happy with your contribution. As usual, the presentation will go up on the website in a few
Sure.
hours.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye. Have a nice day.